The Vulture King is half mad, and his followers are rabble, undisciplined and unwashed. We can smell them coming 50 leagues away. Harmon Dondarrion, the King Aenys Targaryen, Fire and Blood, the sons of the dragon. As the outlaw Harren the Red vanished into the Riverlands, there was much debate as to how King Aenys Targaryen had handled his first true test as king. Some thought the king's caution a good thing, others that it showed weakness. But what both sides could agree on is that Aenys Targaryen was very indecisive in his decision making. By the time Aenys had returned to King's Landing at the end of his first real progress as king, the news had grown even more dire. In the Vale, Lord Jonos Arryn's younger brother, Jonos, had deposed and imprisoned his sibling, and declared himself king of the mountain and the Vale. Meanwhile, in the Iron Islands, another priest king had walked out of the sea, announcing himself to be Lodos the twice drowned, the son of the drowned god, returned at last from visiting his father. And in the Red Mountains of Dorne, a pretender called the Vulture King appeared, and called on all true Dornishmen to avenge the evils visited on Dorne by House Targaryen during the conquest. The Princess Daria Martell denounced the Vulture King, swearing that she and all little Dornishmen wanted only peace with the kingdoms to the north. Thousands of Dornish flocked to his banner, swarming down from the hills and up out of the sands, through goat tracks in the mountains into the Reach. Some even said that Princess Daria supported the Vulture King's cause in secret. This Vulture King is half mad, and his followers are rabble, undisciplined and unwashed, Lord Harmon Dondarrion wrote to the troubled King Aenys. We can smell them coming from 50 leagues away. Not long after, the self-same rabble stormed and seized his castle of Blackhaven. The Vulture King personally sliced off Dondarrion's nose before putting Blackhaven to the torch and marching away. In the blink of an eye, Aenys' new kingdom was in utter chaos, with the king unable to decide what issue to deal with first. The king was easily influenced, swaying this way and that like a reed in the winds, like as not to heed whichever counsellor last had his ear. The writings of Grandmaster Garwin, Fire and Blood, the sons of the dragon. Grandmaster Garwin wrote in his court records that the king could not comprehend why this was happening, or what he had done to create so much division. The small folk loved him, did they not? Jonos Arryn, this new Lodos, the Vulture King, had he wronged them in some way? If they had grievances, why not bring them to him? I would have heard them out. His grace spoke of sending messengers to the rebels to learn the reasons for their actions, but some at court saw this as Aenys procrastinating the issue further. Fearing that King's Landing might not be safe with Harren the Red alive and near, King Aenys sent Queen Alyssa and their younger children, Jaehaerys and Alysanne, to Dragonstone. He commanded his hand, Lord Alan Stokeworth, to take a fleet of ships and an army to the Vale, to put down Jonos Arryn and restore his brother Ronald to lordship. But when the ships were about to set sail, he countermanded his order, fearing that Stokeworth's departure would leave King's Landing undefended. Instead, he sent his hand, with but a few hundred men, to hunt down Harren the Red, and decided he would summon a great council to discuss how to best put down the other rebels. Men began to whisper that his father, King Aegon, had never had to seek the advice of a great council when it came to such matters. Some had had enough of the king's inaction, and some of his lords took to the field without his consent. Some acted on their own accord, others in league with Dowager Queen Visenya Targaryen, who could see the situation for what it was. In the Vale, Lord Allard Royce of Runestone assembled 20 loyal bannermen and marched against the Eyrie, easily defeating the supporters of the self-styled king. But when they demanded the release of the rightful lord, Jonos Arryn sent his brother to them through the moon door. Such was the sad end of Ronald Arryn, who had flown 3 times around the Giant's Lance on Dragonback as a boy. The Eyrie, in theory, was impregnable to any conventional assault, so Jonos Arryn and his die-hard followers spat down defiance at the loyalists and settled in for a long siege, one that could last years if the food stores were big enough. That is, until out of nowhere on this peaceful, sunny day, Prince Maegor Targaryen appeared in the skies above. Astride Balerion, the Conqueror's youngest son, had finally claimed a dragon at last. and none other than Balerion the Black Dread, the greatest of them all. Rather than face the fires of Balerion, the Eyries garrison seized the pretender and delivered him to Lord Royce, opening the moon door once again and serving Jonas the Kinslayer as he had served his brother. Surrender saved the pretender's followers from burning, but not death. After taking possession of the Eyrie, Maegor executed them to a man. Even the highest born amongst them were denied the honour of dying by sword. Traitors deserve only the rope, Maegor decreed. So the captured knights were hung naked from the walls of the Eyrie, kicking as they strangled slowly. Hubert Arryn, a cousin to the dead brothers, was installed as Lord of the Vale. As he had already sired 6 sons by his wife, a Royce of Runestone, the Arryn succession was seen to be secure. In the Iron Islands, Goran Greyjoy, the Lord Reaper of Pike, brought King Lodos to a similar swift end, marshalling hundreds of longships to descend upon Old Wick and Great Wick, where the Pretender's followers were most numerous, and putting thousands of them to the sword. Afterwards he had the head of the priest king pickled in brine and sent to King's Landing. King Aenys was so pleased by the gift, he offered Greyjoy any boon he might desire. This proved most unwise. Lord Goran wished to prove himself a true son of the drowned god, and asked the king for the right to expel all the septons and scepters who had come to the Iron Islands after the conquest to convert the Ironborn to the worship of the faith of the Seven. King Aenys had no choice but to agree. Your father took my hand. I claim yours as repayment. Orys Baratheon to Walter Will, Fire and Blood, the sons of the dragon. The largest and most threatening rebellion remained that of the Vulture King along the Dornish Marches. Though Princess Daria Martell continued to issue denunciations from Sunspear, there were many who suspected that she was playing a double game, for she did not take to the field against these rebels, and was rumoured to be sending them men and money, and supplies. Whether that was true or not, hundreds of Dornish knights and several thousand seasoned spearmen joined the Vulture King's army, and that army itself had swelled enormously to more than 30,000 men. So large had his host become, the Vulture King made an ill-considered decision and divided his strength. While he marched west against Nightsong and Horn Hill with half of the Dornish power, the other half went east to besiege Stonehelm, the seat of House Swan, under the command of Lord Walter Will, the son of the infamous widow lover, Will of Will. Both hosts met with disaster. Orys Baratheon, now known as Orys One Hand, rode forth from Storm's End, one last time, to smash the Dornish beneath the walls of Stonehelm. When Walter Will was delivered into his hand, wounded but alive, Orys told him, "Your father took my hand. I claim yours as repayment." So saying, he hacked off Lord Walter's sword hand. Then he took his other hand, and both his feet as well. Strange to say, Lord Baratheon died on the march back to Storm's End of wounds he himself had taken during the battle. His son, Davos Baratheon, always said he died content, smiling at the rotting hands and feet that dangled in his tent like a string of onions. The Vulture King himself fared little better. Unable to capture Nightsong, he abandoned the siege and marched west, only to have Lord Caron sally forth from behind him to join up with a strong force of Marcher Lords led by the wounded Harmon Dondarrion. Meanwhile, Lord Samwell Tarly of Horn Hill suddenly appeared, attacking the Dornish line of march with several thousand knights and archers. Savage Sam, the lord was called, and so he proved in the bloody battle that ensued, cutting down a dozen of the Dornishmen with his famed Valyrian steel blade Heartsbane. The Vulture King had twice as many men as his 3 foes combined, but most were untrained and undisciplined, and when faced with armoured knights at the front and rear, their ranks shattered. Throwing down their spears and shields, the Dornish broke and ran, making for the distant mountains. But the Marcher Lords rode after them and cut them down in what became known after as the Vulture Hunt. As for the rebel king himself, the man who called himself the Vulture King was taken alive and tied naked between 2 posts by Savage Sam Tarly. The singers like to say that he was torn to pieces by the very vultures from whom he took his name, but in truth he perished of thirst and exposure. By the time the birds did descend upon him, he was well and truly dead. His death is generally accounted as the end of the Second Dornish War, though that is somewhat of a misnomer, since technically no Dornish lords ever took to the field, and Princess Daria continued to vilify the Vulture King until his end, and took no part in his campaigns. The first of the rebels proved to be the last as well, but Harren the Red was at last brought to bay in a village west of the God's Eye. The outlaw king did not die quietly. In his last fight, he slew the king's hand, Lord Alan Stokeworth, before being cut down by Stokeworth's squire, Benar Brune. A grateful king conferred knighthood on Brune and awarded Davos Baratheon, Samwell Tarly, Jonos Dondarrion, Alan Caron, Allard Royce, Goran Greyjoy with gold, offices and honours. The greatest plaudits he bestowed upon his own brother on his return to King's Landing. Prince Maegor was hailed as a hero. King Aenys embraced him and named him Hand of the King. And when 2 young dragons hatched amidst the fire pits of Dragonstone at the end of that year, it was taken as a positive sign.